If you stood on a rooftop in Manchester in the 1850s, you weren't looking at a normal city. You were looking at a machine. This was something the human race had never seen before. A skyline not defined by church spires or castles, but by smokestacks. Hundreds of them. They called it Cottonopolis. It was a city built for one purpose: production. The smoke was so thick it turned noon into twilight, and the roar of the steam engines never stopped. This wasn't a city that grew naturally. It was a city that exploded into existence. In this video, I use modern AI tools to bring historic engravings and early photographs to life, allowing us to move through Manchester as it appeared in the 1850s. What you're about to see is a city that invented the modern world, not through intention, but through relentless acceleration. Go back just 70 years to the late 1700s, and this place was unrecognizable. It was a quiet market town of barely 20,000 people. There were green fields, a clear river, and fresh air. But then came the spark: cotton, and more importantly, steam. By 1850, the population had surged to over 300,000. It was a demographic shockwave. The city expanded faster than anyone could plan for. Streets were laid out in chaos. Housing was thrown up overnight, and the old market town was buried under brick and soot. The heart of this new world was the factory. Step inside a mill in 1850 and your senses would be overwhelmed. The noise was deafening, a constant rhythmic clatter of power looms and spinning frames. Conversation was impossible. Workers communicated with hand signals and lip reading. The air was thick with fluff, cotton dust that coated your clothes, your hair, and filled your lungs. Windows were nailed shut to keep the humidity high so the threads wouldn't snap, making the heat unbearable. Here, the human served the machine. The steam engine dictated the pace. You didn't work when you wanted. You worked when the factory bell rang. It wasn't just men toiling in the heat. It was women, and it was children. Kids as young as 5 worked as scavengers, crawling beneath the moving gears to sweep up loose cotton. It was a job that required you to be small, fast, and lucky. Accidents were common. A moment of distraction could mean a crushed hand or a lost limb. Shifts lasted 14 hours, 6 days a week. You woke up in the dark, you worked in the dark, and you went home in the dark. And when the bell finally rang to end the shift, there was no escape from the grime. Workers returned to districts like Angel Meadow and Little Ireland, places that observers at the time called hell on earth. Houses were built back to back with no ventilation. Families of 10 squeezed into single rooms or damp cellars. There was no privacy, and sanitation was non-existent. In these neighborhoods, disease didn't just visit, it lived there. Cholera and typhus were constant threats. The statistics were horrifying. In the poorest slums of Manchester, the average life expectancy for a laborer was just 26 years. Yet despite the squalor, this city was the engine of a global empire. The River Irwell ran black with industrial dye, a visual receipt of the city's success. Manchester was the center of a web that stretched across the world. Raw cotton arrived from the slave plantations of the American South. It was spun here and then shipped out to India, Europe, and the Americas. The opening of the Liverpool and Manchester Railway in 1830, the world's first intercity train line, meant that goods moved faster than ever before. Speed was profit. This was a city of extreme contrasts. While the workers suffered in cellars, the cotton lords built grand halls and amassed fortunes. Observers like Friedrich Engels came here and were horrified by the segregation. The rich lived in the suburbs, commuting into the city without ever having to see the slums hidden behind the main streets. It was a city that terrified visitors. It was dirty, it was loud, and it was ugly. But it was also undeniable. Manchester in the 1850s was a warning, but it was also a blueprint. It proved that production could be scaled up beyond imagination. It showed the power of technology and the terrible price of unchecked progress. Standing on that bridge, looking at the forest of chimneys, you were looking at the birth of the modern world. It wasn't clean, and it wasn't quiet, but it changed everything.